we are back, talking Dat Gita. We're back with our 20-part series on the themes within the Bhagavad Gita. If you wanted to know the main essential theme, well, that's episode 1 of this series. If you want to know the main themes of Vedanta, that's episode 1 of this podcast, where we touch on the deep end of the pool, the end of this philosophy. And this is certainly a theme within the Gita because, as we've noted, the Gita contains the whole philosophy within this 27-minute conversation between this warrior prince, Arjuna, and his charioteer, Krishna. And in that conversation, we are told that, and you could take it as a light suggestion. In fact, that's one of the great things about Vedanta that separates it from any kind of religion where you have to take things dogmatically, and if you take part of it, you got to take all of it. Within Vedanta, you can leave things on the shelf. And you could take the ideas that maybe work for you today, an hour from now in that work meeting, or that work for you as a parent, as a friend, someone that's struggling. This is a wellspring in which you can grab principles that, not in some high-minded, irrelevant way, but principles that practically can help you with whatever you are dealing with. It is so beautifully complete, whatever you are dealing with, and you can apply it. And you will see it just like learning a skill. You will see, wow, okay, that actually worked. That advice I got on this skill, the skill of living, that actually just worked. But as you go through this very simple philosophy that I sum it up in 15 minutes in that first episode of the podcast, you get towards the end of the metaphorical book of what this philosophy is saying. And at the end, it's saying in the Gita, this is a major theme within the Gita, it talks about the illusory nature of the world we find ourselves in. It's called Maya, which translates to illusion. It's actually the root of which we get the word mother, matter, which is beautiful irony. We get the word matter from the word illusion. We get magic. We get measure. We get all of these words from this Sanskrit word Maya, which can be translated as illusion. It's also talked about a superimposition within various texts where we project the world that we are in. We are projecting it. It's often said that we're projecting it through our mind. Our mind is projecting this world. It's better, more technically sound to say that it is our ignorance projecting this world. It is our blindness to what is that presents what we see. And I can hear the thoughts going through anyone listening to this, going through your head where you're like, what are you talking about? That's preposterous. I was on board with a lot of these principles with the idea that this is not real, something like the Matrix. That's ridiculous. But like every other aspect within this philosophy, it never asks you to check your reason and rationale at the door. It fully employs your reason and rationale. And where it employs our reason and rationale within something as seemingly crazy as saying, none of this is real. This is all an illusion. It points to something we experience every 24 hours, the dream. Within the dream, maybe the dream that you had 2 hours ago, if you're watching this in the morning. I had a dream, about 4 hours ago, and it was a pretty crazy dream. That entire world that I was in was a projection of my own making. The walls, the ground, the gravity, the clothes people were wearing, it was all a projection within my mind. I was creating all of it, and yet I didn't know what was about to happen. There was some drama within the dream, and I had no idea what was about to happen, and yet I was creating all of it. And if you were to try to tell me in that dream, the one I had 4 hours ago, that I was creating the whole scenario, I would have found it laughable. And what this philosophy says is this is an elevated version of that. So often when you say something like, none of this is, at least this philosophy says that none of this is real, someone grabs, say, a table right in front of them, like this one. You knock on it. Of course this is real because, well, my perceptions are the arbiter of what's real, right? That's obvious. I can touch it. It's real. And yet, just a few hours ago, in the midst of a dream, that is a perfect example where your perceptions were not a great arbiter of what was real. You perceived something that then you woke up and 5 minutes later, not only did you probably forget about it, but in no way, shape, or form could someone convince you that it was real. But just a few minutes prior, well, according to your perceptions, was. Vedanta and the Bhagavad Gita, through the dialogue of Krishna talking to Arjuna, suggests that this is just an elevated version of a dream. But most of the classical Upanishads talk about it in terms of 3 states: deep sleep, dreaming, waking state. We're in the waking state now. But that does not mean that this is the highest state or the state that is reality. Reality in the Upanishads is called Turiya, which just is the Sanskrit word for fourth. That fourth plane, that fourth state, that is reality. And for every one of us that says, this is preposterous because this feels so real, feels so real that it's obviously real. The example that you can go back to over and over and over again is the absurdness of saying that about the dream, that had all of the same characteristics and all of the same elements of which you and I would conventionally say, well, it has to be real because I can see it, I can touch it, I perceive it. The Gita and Vedanta says our perceptions should not be trusted for what is real. It's also fascinating to see the work in the realm of physics that is starting to deconstruct that same notion that maybe our perceptions are not a great arbiter of what is real. You could go down the rabbit hole with cognitive scientists like Donald Hoffman, gave a great TED talk on the scientific research around what they're discovering on our inability to perceive reality. Or astrophysicists like Nima Arkani Hamed out of Princeton, doing the same work from the physics angle. But what is so interesting is that we have an example in our own lives, in your own experience, oftentimes every 24 hours, where our perceptions leave much to be desired when it comes to the question of what is real. And a major theme within the Gita is that though we might perceive this to be real, from our natural state, our union with the vast, this is not real. This has been another reflection on the Daily Vedantic and our 20-part series on the Bhagavad Gita. Tomorrow we're going to round out our 10 major themes before we get started on the 10 minor themes, less discussed themes. And these are just my opinion. This is not a series from the ashram. It's not a series within Swamiji's books or anything. These are just my opinions of the 10 major themes and the 10 minor, less discussed, but endlessly fascinating themes within this short dialogue. And tomorrow's episode is going to be on inner peace and control. We'll see you then. Thanks for listening to the Daily Vedantic. This reflection is part of a free repeating 2-year course in Advaita Vedanta. Rooted in the timeless wisdom of the Upanishads, arguably the oldest philosophical texts on earth, you can begin with episode 1, which gives the 15-minute overview of the whole philosophy of Vedanta, or you can join the journey with any episode at any point. But the critical aspect of this course, of understanding and mastering anything, is to study and reflect, even for 10 to 15 minutes on the timeless each day, preferably at the start of your day. As is said in this philosophy, reflection is 100,000 times as powerful as listening. So listen, journal, sit with, discuss these concepts, or ask questions at thedailyvedantic.com with our AI-powered chatbot, informed by about 700 episodes here, as regularly as one can, if you want to see clarity and peace almost effortlessly unfold in your daily life. And if it doesn't result in a near immediate increase in clarity and peace, then toss aside and feel free to never listen again. One of the things that you might notice is after 7 or 8 days in a row, this doesn't feel like a discipline. This feels like a visit with a best friend to dive into the timeless with daily reflection. Within a few days, it becomes one of your favorite parts of the day. You can also find out more, including news about in-person events in Los Angeles and beyond, at the Daily Vedantic on Instagram, or through our weekly newsletter at thedailyvedantic.com. Additionally, check out the links in our show notes for more resources like the books that are mentioned most frequently in the episodes, including Vedanta Treatise, perhaps the simplest and most straightforward read on this philosophy I've ever come across. Until next time, and from the entire team that works on the Daily Vedantic project, thanks for listening.